I'm gonna switch these down here.
Excuse my reach.
Oh, sorry. Otherwise, I'm gonna eat all the chocolate.
Oh, they're tape recorders.
Yeah.
I thought she was perfect.
Can't hide from anything
Watching the
here.
video. Now I have to watch my language.
What's that?
Lesbian.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry. Yeah.
I mean, if there's evidence, I tell my wife, I never swear at
Well,
work.
isn't it, well, is it,
Only at home.
what do you want? But doesn't that help us with what we want to do? We want to complete things or not?
I thought, last year we did the ground rules, about 2 years ago we did the ground rules, we never really, by the time we sat down and actually got to them, we abandoned them halfway through, if you recall.
So what do you want to do? How do you want to set this up right now?
Well, let's get the meeting started first, and I guess we can.
No, I told Jay, let's get this done now.
She's like, I'm ready, let's go.
I was gonna say, why would we want to meet again? Let's just be done.
I know.
And I haven't seen the attitude since 2013.
And it was,
I was gonna say, did you see the revision date on the bottom of
I
it?
haven't seen the attitude since 2013.
Last updated
That was the
in
last, that was
98.
the last
like,
time
let's
that
get this moving.
we had this attitude ready.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was
Bunch of smart folks like us meeting this time.
I know.
Yeah, we need the air conditioning on. All right, are we ready? Nah, it's open. We might as well just let the airflow go through, and we're gonna keep those doors open on the side in case there's some stragglers.
Super good.
So, okay, well, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Thanks for being here. Thanks to everybody out there. Hopefully, we don't need the microphones here because they're not here. So hopefully you can hear, but definitely those around the table here. Want to make sure everybody can speak clearly and loud, so we can all hear. So with that,
Don't you get used to the gavel to call it to order?
no, I don't like that. All right, it's ordered. It's too good. Okay, so we have an agenda for this first meeting. Is there any motions or anything to change any of this agenda at this time?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would suggest that that we're all here now and Twyla's here and on the clock, that if we do get through the ground rules and so forth, and your board negotiators are ready to begin topics, to actually begin topics tonight as well, or at least the placement on the table of what the topics are.
Hallelujah. All right, sounds great. We'll add that. Okay, any other changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, then we'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
All right, thanks, Kim. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Okay, so all those, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, good. All those in favor of approval of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, same sign? All right. So let's move to the item number 2, or item number 3, review attitudes. This is a tradition, I think, and so I want to be very cognizant of what the district has done in years past, but since this is my first negotiation, but apparently back in 1998, there was a version of some just attitudes for negotiations. So is it appropriate? I'm asking for a good conversation. Do we want to kind of go over those 11 items that are listed there and make sure this is all still relevant for today?
I think I can give you some background on
Thanks,
that.
Jim. That would greatly help because
I've been here the longest
Yes.
of any of us. We did these every meeting up until 2013.
up until 2013. Okay.
We have not done them since 2013. I would be open to reading them again as we have in the past. What we used to do is we'd start and each one would read an attitude kind of as a reminder of who we are and why we're here.
Okay,
So I would not be at all opposed to putting the attitudes back in, if that's the choice of the group.
group, what do you think?
Good, sounds good
Shall we
to me.
take just a minute? I know we're sensitive to everyone's time, but let's, I think that's a great idea. And maybe Jim, you could start and we'll just go around the room in a circle, around the table here, and just maybe each take a turn and read the next one in line of these 11 that were identified back in '98.
We will be open, honest, and upfront with viewpoints, opinions, and information, and will share them accurately with other groups.
So
We will-
if we agree, do we just thumbs up as they get read?
I guess
I
we'll.
think we're agreed on them if we're reading them.
Okay,
Okay.
all right,
We're
perfect.
just reviewing. We will treat each other with respect and trust as partners in education, our common ground.
We will work with accurate and mutual accepted data.
We will focus on individual issues, listening to and considering everyone's ideas while searching for creative solutions through consensus.
All discussions will take place at the table among team members. We may utilize mutually agreed upon outside expertise to gather additional information.
Any issue of concern for one team member becomes a concern for all. We will be open to discussing any issue.
We will schedule regular meetings trying to avoid time conflicts for team members.
We will work to keep the meetings positive, productive, and focused on our district's future.
We are committed to the collaborative process and will deal promptly with counterproductive behavior, such as asking for outside assistance when needed.
We will review and follow these attitudes for collaborative bargaining faithfully.
We may use flexible tentative agreements when appropriate.
Well, thank you. I think those are great historical comments, so we'll make sure we hold true to those as we move forward. So moving forward, that really brings us to our next agenda item, which is to establish the kind of the ground rules of what we want to do here for the next few meetings, and especially today. So I guess let me ask this, Jim, as far as well, and to the group, but you've been here the longest, so I think that's great. Some great history. What method of negotiations is preferred by you at this juncture? I know last time, a couple years ago, you used IBB, kind of a very formal book type process. I think a few years before that, you just used more of what I would call a regular negotiations, right? I want to just be sensitive to whatever the wishes are. And so we wanted to have that conversation so we know how to formally kind of move.
I think IBB we used last time became somewhat cumbersome,
Okay?
and especially when it came to salary. You know, and we all knew coming in that you can't IBB necessarily with salary.
Okay.
So it'd be my suggestion, collaborative bargaining is a word about that is used to ensure that we all work together, but understanding, we do represent organizations,
You
and
bet.
that we're still responsible for our organization as they are responsible for theirs as well. But and we're looking at the one thing that our rules have, or our ground rules should have, and what our attitudes have is the idea of respect, and that we do respect everybody and their opinions, because they are important.
Okay. Other input from others around the table? Similar thoughts? Are we okay
I'm on the
then?
same page as Jim is.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's good then, because I didn't have to copy this big old thick book of IBB for everybody, so that saved a bunch of paperwork. Good. So then in regards to kind of setting some ground rules for regular bargaining, I guess, I think that's a great place to start. So let me hand to you. Is there enough copies here, Twyla, for everybody?
Well, actually, I think I need to change the two words at the top to collaborative bargaining.
Okay.
And I'm doing that right now.
So do we just want to do that and print it, or
Or do you have it as teacher negotiations?
we do?
You can keep it as teacher negotiations, that's fine, because negotiations is,
Is the
whether
key
it's,
word there?
whether it's cloud, it's still negotiations no matter what.
Well, then if you'd like to take one and pass it down. Do you have enough there in my short one?
I think where it might be short, so,
Well, you and I'll share.
okay.
Okay, well, with that, you can see the previous ground rules and the update to red. Oh, thank you, Twyla. The update of red of just simply changing IBB to teacher negotiations or whatever wording you guys would like, we'll update that and stuff. So let's take a few minutes and let's go over each of these 13 items, okay? So item number 1, composition of the teacher negotiation team. Essentially that talks about the team will be composed of less than a quorum of school board members and other representatives as it deems appropriate. We have 2 school board members out of the 5, so it is less than a quorum. And they have designated me to be the lead negotiator at this time. If at any given juncture that gets in the way of anything, we'll decide how to move forward after that. But we're trying to turn a new leaf here in the district and want to make sure that that is a picture that all the teachers and everybody know. So rather than me sitting off to the side, I'm going to be very involved. So please know that. The next item on here talks about the teacher negotiations team will determine how many resources people would like to use. A resource people are not members of the team. The business manager, Mr. Anderson, will also serve as a resource person. And I don't know if he's here. I think I told him he didn't need to come to this, but maybe we should if we get to some of the specific topics. He could definitely help us. So we'll grab him. So any further conversations about item number 1? And this is what you guys did in the past. Kind of went over each of these items. Is that right, Jim?
This was what we did. We actually took like 8 meetings last time to do this, and it was very cumbersome.
So are we rushing? Am I rushing things, or are you okay with us going
Well,
through this?
I'm going to throw something at you guys as well, because we're at 13 long, cumbersome ground rules for us. And if you take a look at the ground rules for the administration negotiations, there's 6 of them.
Throw at us. What's your ideas?
Well, I think that if you take a look at the ground rules for the administration, they're very simple. They're very respectful. They're good. They're very good. And
Copies for everybody?
Can I go make copies of that, Jim, and I'll bring it back?
How about I give you the copy of the one that we're proposing and the one that it's identical. It just changes administrator to teacher. But they're very simple and they're very easy.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea.
Well, you should have stopped me before I read number 1.
Well,
But you were kind
I
of on a roll.
Okay.
I know not to bite the hand that feeds me.
Do we need to hand you the gavel?
I thought you were retired.
After this one, probably. But I think that the biggest thing, and I know that Kim and I, and the majority of us were on this last time, with the exception of you 3, is that we just have to understand that we all have our opinions, and we need to respect our opinions, and we need to respect each other.
You bet.
And that there's no, when we talked about the IBB stuff, ideas, we have to be creative at times, and we want to be able to do that openly and honestly.
100% agree, Jim. So Jim, while we're waiting for those to come in, and the rest of you, I shouldn't just keep addressing Jim by only Jim. Thank you very much.
Where's the originals for the red ones going to?
They got holes in them already.
Okay, so we'll just, I guess there's 2 here. Pass these down, see if I got enough. One's from the teacher, or from the principals, right? The
Yeah,
pictures?
one's the
You probably
administrative
didn't need that, but you
negotiations,
can
and
take
one's
the top
ours.
2
And you'll see that they are identical.
and there's a bigger pile over here, so I probably didn't divide it good enough.
Just trying to
I already
think
have a
whether.
copy.
Do you guys have this?
Oh, you've got
I,
everything.
yep, I already have it here, so.
Will you help me with the hard words? To put-
What's this now?
It's extras.
Okay, got it.
Everybody have them up there?
Well, it certainly is 6 instead of 13, isn't it?
It is.
So,
Short and sweet.
well, I think this certainly looks good to me. How's everybody else feel at the table?
Fine.
Michelle?
Yep, looks good.
So make sure I'm cleared on number 4. The team agrees that no new agenda items will be proposed unless by agreement after the primary topics have been set and a second meeting has followed the primary topics. So the primary topics will occur in meeting
1 or 2?
1 or 2,
Yeah.
and then a second meeting after that, then you don't bring new things to the talking point.
Right, unless it's mutually.
Unless it's mutually agreed
Right.
upon. Okay, I guess I think that's very fair. So,
That was standard also in the other one as well.
okay, so I think that's all good. I guess probably the only thing that's not on this principal one that we're looking at adopting is that very last item. What is a reasonable timeline to accomplish this? I can tell you that my pie in the sky goal idea is realistically, without killing us all around the table the next little while, I would love to be able to present this to the school board at the May 13th board meeting. Is that possible? I don't know your rules and your bylaws for how long you need to.
We need 7 days. After we finalized it, we go and we have 7 days in our bylaws.
Okay.
So that's a very, very tight timeline. Is it doable? That all depends upon the legislature and when they wrap up their session as well after day 73. They still got 7 more days they could theoretically take if they wanted to.
Yeah. No, you're right. I'm hearing they were hoping for today, but it didn't, obviously, not that I know of, it didn't happen today. Did we hear it today? I don't think it's closed. So I know they're close, but yes, you're right. But I think unless something new breaks in the next couple of days, which maybe we'll be all grateful if it does, I think we know where we're at too.
Okay.
So I guess, again, I think as long as we move forward in good faith with a timeline, that seems fair to me. And if we can't realistically meet it, we can't realistically meet it. But there's a lot hinging on this conversation. So that you all know as well. I've said this in multiple meetings across the district the last several months. I'm really a big advocate for trying to make sure we treat all of our employees fair. Our classified folks oftentimes have already had a negotiation, had kind of an agreement package presented to them by now. I asked them for patience, hoping that we could get this wrapped up so that we can treat everybody fairly, because I don't think it's fair for any one group to get more or less than maybe the next group. And however, I also recognize that there are some constraints that we have with the classified group that I need to issue work agreements to that group before school gets out this year for next year, or we'll be in a whole nother world of challenge with unemployment, insurance expenses over the summer and all of those things that we don't want to take on, that the district itself would rather not do. So yes, if at all possible, if you think it's kind of doable, I know you guys are all on track and you got other things busy. Do you think we could target that Friday, May 10th as kind of our agreement date?
It's a pie in the sky goal, but I think that if we're in good faith with it, I think we're. I mean, it's possible, but it's going to be really hard.
We should always call a special meeting.
Yeah. So I mean, let's.
We'll be working hard.
Let's just say if we don't meet it, we
We tried.
we try and we
Yeah.
do it as quickly as possible. Because that was one of the things when we first put the date in, it was like, well, what if we don't meet it? Does that mean we're at
Right.
impasse if we don't meet it? Because our ground rules say we're gonna have it by then.
Well, I hope definitely that's not the case. We would not, that wouldn't be my favor.
No.
I just think it's great to start a project with an end result in mind. I've always liked that idea, and so I think knowing that we're trying, that would really literally mean if you guys need a week, then we're probably talking the week before that. So that's May 3rd, which is 2 weeks away, 2 weeks from, 2 weeks, a week and a day.
You know?
A week and a day. So what are you guys doing Saturday, Sunday? When are we? When are we
Like, we'll be.
I do know that you're planning to accept the administrator's negotiation
yes, tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yes.
At a special meeting. And I appreciate your comment on the fairness across the board. You know, and that is very refreshing, considering some of the taste that we have from the last negotiating
Good.
aspect.
Well, we really we'll see how this process goes, because I can only have high aspirations, high hopes, but I'm confident that we'll have a new taste in our mouth when we're done with this, and everybody will. Maybe we won't all be as bald as myself with going through this process. So, went to the track meet yesterday for literally 45 minutes, guys, and I have to wear a red shirt to keep the red hair from poking out. I got burned. Crazy. So, okay, well then, that's probably the only thing that's not on that first, those 6 items, is the target date then of perhaps May 10th, which means if you guys need a week, we really should try to target May 3rd. To hopefully be in agreement, and then let you guys do your thing, and then we'll see. And we all know if we don't make it, we don't make it. As Mr. Schwartz said, we can schedule a separate special board meeting if we need to, specifically for this. But we also know how crazy Mays are for everybody, and apparently, they're always crazy in April too. And so it's just why we're here in April 24th to even start these conversations. So it sounds to me like we're all in favor then of adopting these 6 ground rules. I'm fine with that if everybody else is. Yeah?
Yes.
All right, Jim, that sounds great to me. We will do that as our ground rules. So on the agenda item then, sorry,
Come to an agreement and print it out.
what's
They
that?
sign off. If they come to an agreement, you could sign off if you wanted to.
Oh, do we do
If this is
that?
correct. If they want, it's up to them.
So this one,
In the past, Mr. Chair, what
Yes.
we've done is tentative agreements have been made on certain things and we
Sign
sign
off.
them. However, we would like to, we would love to continue negotiating, but
yeah.
our agreements that we have to take back to the DEA before we sign them this year. So,
Okay.
but I'm the ground rules, we're okay with the ground rules.
So Twyla, let's just make sure that sheet you just brought me is matches, because I see item 5 lists an hour and a half on there, but on this one, it says 2 hours,
Item 6 is different as well.
and item 6,
Okay, so I don't have the same one then.
you must not, no. So let's make sure you get the right one, and then, okay, then
Yeah.
we'll share that out then, and you guys can do your.
If you
guys
share
can
it
do
out
your thing.
digitally, I can pass it off to
Okay.
our executive team.
We will do that. So Twyla, we'll just share that out with this team digitally, and then they can take it from there and share it out. Okay, so that brings us then, well, we're gonna continue conversations, but let's make sure on the agenda then scheduling the next meeting date and time. We did kind of talk about our target date then, hopefully coming to terms by about May 3rd. So when's a realistic time for the next meetings?
Tomorrow.
And tell me what time of day do you usually have these? What's been the past history?
Well, because
Kind of
there's 3 of
varies.
the 4 of us coach,
Yeah.
we would have to move them to,
5:30 would be
at
nice.
the very earliest.
Okay,
Typically, we've gone 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So,
Mornings are difficult because if we get into a good conversation
then you gotta run.
and then you have to stop that conversation to go to class.
And I have children. I
Yeah,
can't do
and-
mornings.
Yeah.
That sounds fine.
5:36, you guys tell us what time you wanna meet and we'll do
Well, we
it.
can't tomorrow. We have a board meeting already at
It's a joke.
6. Oh. Let's get going.
I can't, I'm at a
Can we
tournament
ask
this
them
Friday,
that?
Saturday.
6 days?
We could go,
Let me ask this question, Jim, just for my knowledge sake. And yeah, it's not, I certainly would prefer you to be in class, but doesn't the negotiation agreement give some days to do DEA work? Like, I think there's 6 days. Do you ever do that?
we do not.
Okay, those days are for other days to go to state meetings or other things with your team
Yeah,
or with
delegate
your
meetings, things
members?
like that. And the biggest reason why we would prefer not to is that we have a wonderful, support group that if we
That wants
did
to
that.
come and
yeah,
watch.
If
Yep,
we did
okay.
that during the day,
Fair
that would
enough, you bet.
eliminate that group.
You bet. Okay, so then let's throw out some dates.
Monday, the 29th. And
You're not scheduled to go Tuesday, are
I'm
you?
not scheduled to go Tuesday, both of us.
Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of next week, I believe, we're both free.
We're both free.
Monday would be
Sarah?
Thursday.
I can
you,
too,
Sarah.
yeah.
Shauna?
Monday would be the best day for me. I guess I could do
And if we're looking, Mr. Chair,
calendars.
to try and wrap this up quickly, we might want to even schedule like a Monday, Wednesday. I would not want to go back to back because
Yeah, it
that,
might- yeah.
Is this week out?
well, tomorrow's out because you guys have the special board
Board
meeting and the
meeting.
forum, and then both of us are gone to Bismarck for then relays on Friday.
And Tuesday next week is a forum as well.
Yep, and Tuesday next week's the forum as
All
well.
right, well then, should we shoot for Monday and Wednesday next week?
Works for me.
Yep.
So Wednesday would be the first, and so then we would start these at 5:30? So they're not gonna go any longer than 2 hours? Is that the, kind of what we just agreed upon?
Yeah.
So basically 5:30 to 7:30.
Is that okay for your time? Okay,
I'm good with that.
okay.
And Jay, you guys with track and stuff can wrap up practice early enough?
We'll
to-
leave early,
Okay,
getting things organized and all, we'll be all right.
all right.
We may become rolling in,
Sweatpants.
tiger screeching, but we'll
And
get
you
here.
can, yep, sweatpants works too. Okay, Monday and Wednesday,
Monday, Wednesday?
gosh, Wednesday night at 7 is a National Honor Society induction
Oh,
at
that
the
is
high
right.
school that
I take that back.
I
Wednesday is
committed to go
right.
to.
I have to be there too.
Well, we can,
So
was
can
gonna say,
we
you
short,
are
can
the-
we shorten that one if we, let's just plan on that one being no more than an hour and a half?
Yeah,
5:30
an
to,
hour and be done.
or an
Yeah.
hour,
Yeah.
5:30 to 6:30?
Yep.
that sounds good.
And that's why I have an executive committee in the National Honor Society.
I'm glad I looked. I committed to be there, so I would like to do that.
You said 6:30?
It's
5:30, 6:30?
We'll go 5:30 to
5:30.
6:30 then on Wednesday. And then I guess we'll just go from there. You don't want to go back to back, so we wouldn't be looking at Thursday probably anyway, so that'll give us time Wednesday to plan the next
We would be gone Thursday, or at least, I know I don't know
I'm
if
not.
you are. You're not gone
tracks at
Thursday?
Williston Thursday.
Yeah, I think I'm the man down that week.
Okay,
I'll be around Thursday too.
Well, we have two dates planned, so we can make some headway.
okay. And we can start tonight, right? Okay, then we have the next couple dates planned. Monday the 29th, 5:30, 7:30. And Wednesday, the 1st for an hour, 5:30 to 6:30. That sounds great to me. So really then, that leads us right into topics for today. So share away.
Mr. Chair, in the past, it was traditional, we popcorned it. We
Okay.
went back and forth, we ping ponged it, and we would be willing to go that route as well. If you would like. There's a couple of them I think that are of ours that are universal to both sides, and Now, the first one is to update the contract language to create the current dates. So it would reflect the current year that we have. And that's a standard procedure,
Okay.
year after year. I do know that in the past, we've used a subcommittee of one person's from the board side, one person from our side, to highlight and look at the contract and look at what needs to be changed based upon extracurricular committee recommendations for pay and the years, and then just met as a group and then brought that back and said, this is what we, as a group, we found.
Okay.
So what our topic number one up is to update that contract language. I think the second, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, do we want to then organize that right now? Decide which member would be from each side, I guess, to,
If we're just gonna introduce topics, I would say no.
no. Okay,
But, you know, I think at the end of the night, we should, simply because that way we could get a head start on that.
Yeah, fine.
And I think the second one, that's universal to both sides of salary.
Yep.
what about any benefits?
Is that what you guys are proposing, benefits?
Okay, fine, we'll popcorn and I'll throw out, yes, yes. Well, that's my popcorn. You had just mentioned salary. The benefits. I know there's ongoing conversations in regards to dental and vision insurance perks. So we ought to have a conversation about that.
Absolutely. The addition of a maintenance of standards clause to the contract.
And help me understand what's meaning there.
It's just an addendum, or it's a part of the contract that just basically talks about not going backwards in the middle of a contract. So it maintains the standards of the contract through the entire contract term.
Okay. So a contract has gone backwards before?
Not necessarily here, but in other places it has, yes.
Really? Gee, I thought a contract was a contract. Okay. All right, Jim's popcorned. Who else? Let's keep popcorning.
TFFR.
Leave language.
Others?
Leave language. What do you mean by leave language?
I think that you'd probably, if you're going to introduce PTO, I think that's where we'd.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean?
Well, that's not exactly what I mean, but it would
It would fall under that.
fall
umbrella.
under
Yeah.
a similar type of.
Okay, then, it's
That's
your
all
turn
right.
again.
Fine, I don't care. All right.
Okay, so
I'll go again. Professional organization dues.
Okay.
Workday?
The what?
Work.
Workday?
Workday?
Safe workplace language.
Yeah, I guess that is not under leave, is it? Okay, the vacations and transfers?
Vacancies.
Vacancies, not vacations. Vacancies and transfers?
You gonna have the popcorn on your cell now, because I'm done.
You're done
For right now, I'm done.
for right now.
I got 2 meetings. No, I'll be open and honest that that's all we have.
I'm totally teasing.
For now.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah.
I swear, that's all I have for now.
So that is the 6 topics that we have in our,
Okay.
on ours.
Keep it that real quick.
That's about what we have.
Because I think that's what I had started too, so.
Yeah. Not very fun to popcorn when you take all ours.
Well, yeah, I think literally,
That's it.
we'll go, yep. I think I would second Jim for now.
No, I thought we were gonna do 2-year contract.
Oh, I guess that is probably part of the conversation. I was throwing that in the updating of dates. Is that a separate topic that we,
It,
Yeah, what-
I think it needs to be on the table.
it needs to be on the table.
Okay.
Absolutely needs to be on the
length
table.
of, all right, we'll add that as a separate item, length of contract.
Because I do know that in some of our, in my updating of the language, you know, we do have to come back next year no matter what, unless we deal with it this year with a sunset clause. We do have a sunset clause that closes at the end of next year. So we would have to come back and negotiate if we don't fix that this year.
And I'm assuming like when we reference like leave language, and I know you were thinking maybe PTO or whatever, but we also piloted and extended that pilot through this year with,
1 year, the 1 hour leave.
yeah, does that need to be discussed to be permanently addressed?
I think
Would that fall under leave
Is that
language?
falling under that
I
leave?
think that
Okay.
we should,
Yeah,
we
let's
should.
just-
I was thinking it was, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure we don't need a separate topic to talk about that, so, okay?
And the sunset clause I'm referring to is the number of personal days for experienced staff. And I don't know, Kim, were you on that crew that negotiated that? Or am I the only one again?
I was.
I was here.
I was here.
Okay.
Have the conversation about cutoffs for lane changes.
Lane advancements.
Would that be would that fall under salary?
No.
If we wanted to have the conversation about dates for lane changes? Or
I would say
requirements. Does that fall under
list
salary?
that. Let's just have it as another bullet
Yeah.
item.
So that would be horizontal movement, or
It's under,
it would be under horizontal
horizontal
movement?
under salary, but
Yes.
let's just make sure we're
Like
very.
a date to have all
we're
your
very
things
clear.
in. kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that would not fall under the contract language, because the contract language will not add anything. It will only change dates. It'll only change what has come from the extracurricular committee. That's really the only changes that'll happen.
Okay,
So if you want to add something, we do have to add it to the bullets.
yeah, let's add that then.
Which was what again?
Horizontal movement,
The
underneath
date.
the salary.
It's for horizontal.
As far as
movement.
dates,
Just
of
dates.
how you could,
Yep.
when you.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Okay, the popcorn machine's about off, I guess. I'm not hearing a bunch more popcorn. Okay, well, and we've got 2 more meetings, is what we agreed to maybe introduce anything you haven't thought of today or something that may come up, right? All right, so I think that's good. Okay, then what's next? oh, I hate to leave a meeting in 45 minutes when
I agree.
Yeah.
we have all this things to discuss.
Mr. Chair, I would make a recommendation that we begin with some that don't necessarily require Mr. Anderson. Or
Okay, that's a good
that
suggestion.
may be easier to look at as we go. And I would propose, the maintenance standards clause is a fairly easy one, I think. And I did not make copies. If I could get copies made, I would.
Yeah.
I do have something.
No, you bet. Let's, is everybody else okay with
Yeah.
doing this?
let's go.
Taking advantage of this time while we
I
like
have it.
I agree.
I guess I didn't figure that we would get this far.
I didn't either.
Otherwise, I would have made some copies. I apologize.
No problem, this is awesome.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree.
While she's getting ahead and getting these out, I will just kind of tell you what the proposal is. The standard, maintenance standards proposal is to be added to page 3 of the negotiated agreement. I'm not sure if you guys have a negotiated agreement with you or not. I know you guys do down there.
I know we do. I don't know if Kim.
Kim, Michelle, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I didn't think we'd get this far.
Yeah.
This all the same
Do you
thing?
have?
Yep, it should be all the
A
same. It should
negotiated
be all the
agreement in
same.
white,
Okay.
but
Okay, what
I
if
can make a
if we
copy.
put this in the middle?
Oh, yeah,
And
there we
Kim,
go.
then you can look at that as well.
Perfect, thank you.
And I have one. I have one.
Kim, did you?
Kim, did you get one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we need one more.
Here,
Oh, here we go.
I have one.
There we go.
So there's a few copies to circle around down there too.
On page 3 of the negotiated agreement, it just has the savings clause, the duration, and so forth. We're proposing to add the maintenance of standards clause to that page as well. And just stating, all conditions of employment shall be maintained at not less than the highest minimum standards in effect at the district at the time this agreement is signed, provided that such conditions shall be improved for the benefit of teachers as required by the express provisions of this agreement. So improved is the key word there. This agreement shall not be interpreted as applied to deprive teachers of professional and or employment advantages. So basically, we don't want to go backwards during the middle of a contract year. If we do go to a 2-year contract and something happens, that the highest standards of that contract will be maintained throughout the entire term of that contract.
So give me an example of what you're thinking.
Well, a couple years ago, we talked about coming back and renegotiating if funds from the state went down, and that was proposed at that
Oh,
time.
okay.
That the 2-year contract, we'd come back the second year if the state's funds went down. And so this is just kind of reassuring our teachers that we are going to maintain the highest level of the contract. It won't go backwards during that time period.
Can you explain, provided that such conditions shall be improved for? What does that indicate?
Well, if you come back with a higher offer, we're all for it.
Okay, all right. So we can read. Okay.
If you come back and say, we have a windfall, I'm like, okay.
You wouldn't donate it back?
I'm too close to retirement.
So okay. So there's been times in other districts that in the middle of a
In
2-year
smaller
agreement
districts,
that
yes.
they've had no choice but to go backwards. Is
Has
what you're
there
saying.
ever been a time when North Dakota has come back and reduced funding after they've made a funding commitment? The legislature has made a funding commitment.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Yes, we have.
Okay. And
Oh, I see Fern back there.
Fern's back
nodding
there.
her head. So yes, they have.
Okay.
Oh, how long ago was that?
How long ago was that? How long ago was that?
Shauna, how long ago was that?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
All right, so
Mike-
so
Mike
the
is
It's not,
back.
it's not I mean, it's not been recent. I mean, we've been in the oil boom for a while now, so it's not recent. It's been a long
but like
time.
more than 30 years or,
Probably.
It's not less than 30. It was, because it was after that last,
I'd say
Boom.
about 20, wouldn't you?
about 20. Yeah. Yeah.
so in the middle of their biennium, they
Yeah.
cut. They took money away.
That was before the legacy fund. That was before all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
Okay. So I guess it is possible, but it's, North Dakota's not like some other states, like Oregon, for instance, who in the middle of a school year decide to, they're out of money, we're done, figure it out, and they haven't done that.
No.
Okay. Okay. Well, other comments? Well, that's one of 14 bullet items I listed down, and I think this one's, I have no problem with this one. I have no intentions of entering into an agreement that we wouldn't uphold. I guess that's the pros and cons of entering into a multi-year agreement, but I would think our teaching group would prefer to have some stability in knowing what salaries are from one year to the next and how that would work. I would assume, I mean, clearly the only bailout you would have in a district if the legislature did do something crazy like that, you'd have no alternative but to initiate any levies that you could, or to dip into any reserve that you may have and just make things last for 1 year as best you could, and then all things are back on the negotiation table that next year. So I don't see any harm in this. So, and if our teachers feel that that's more comfortable, that's a good thing. Kim, Michelle?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement.
I have no
Okay.
problem.
Yeah,
So
that
then
was our
what-
easy one.
So that is an easy one then. So we're all in agreement on that one. So,
Do we need a motion? then
I guess,
to
yeah.
add
Jim, what have you guys done in the past? A formal motion to,
It is consensus, again, you know, tentative agreements. Can, you know, we can sign, you know, I will take this back now, while Lyle's here, so he hears it, so we'll talk, you know, he'll talk with, send it off to DEA, and then next week, we can come back and do the tentative agreement.
okay.
What's your turnaround?
For this,
Sending it to DEA and getting it back.
we'll be there, we'll be ready by next week. We'll be good.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
curious.
Some days, some days are better than others.
Well, that's how the world works.
We're done.
All right, then I'm gonna put that one underneath here and write on it, okay, and that takes one item off the list. Is there another one suggested that might be an easier conversation than not?
Should we talk about that length of contract?
For the 2 years or 1 year?
Mhm.
If
No, I
that's
That's a,
I think that's an end. That's an end.
That's an end one.
At the end of the
That's
deal.
now.
Okay.
Yep, that's an end one.
Is there anything on there that you, any of
Um,
your proposals are?
I'm looking right now. And
I think we could put together a subcommittee for contract language,
Okay.
and I would be willing to do that for our side,
I guess I would too.
and we can sit down.
Well, there you go then.
It's done.
easy as it is.
If we want to go
Nice, I
through,
like
and then we can email each other back and forth, and I can
Yep.
swing by. And
Exactly.
do we want to deal with the sunset clause, or would we like to continue to keep that until 2020?
Do we want to discuss that under leave?
You'll have to do some research on that,
Right.
because the reason it was in there is to see if it was being abused in any way, shape, or form, if I'm not mistaken. And so there'll have to be some research done on the teachers in that.
And that would be-
demographic and whether it's.
And that would be
used.
something that I'm not sure if that would be a Mr. Harris or a Mr. Anderson question.
Okay. Well, then we'll go to work on getting that information, and we'll just have that conversation at our next meeting on.
Because we wouldn't have access to any.
Yeah, we don't, yeah, and the reason, we put the sunset clause in is to see how many teachers would take 6 days off consecutive. You know, and then if it did get abused, would we have to reevaluate that?
Okay.
So that would be my question for Mr. Harris or Mr. Anderson, is how many, in the last year and a half, how many teachers have taken 6 days off consecutive, 6 consecutive school days?
One question also along those lines, if we have a conversation about the leave language, it might make that a moot point as well. If we do.
This was,
Okay, yeah.
like, we could bring it up under when we actually
When we
talk
talk
about
about
leave
leave
and it
language.
might solve
But
itself.
Yeah,
when
it could
when
solve
we
itself.
have that conversation, let's be prepared with that information for you as well.
I appreciate that, yes.
That'd be awesome.
And specifically, the emphasis behind that was how many teachers took 6 days of personal leave consecutive.
Yes.
6 days of consecutive personal leave.
Personal, okay.
Personal. Because it was at that time, we had done so much to attract and recruit new teachers. Our group decided that we needed to do something to try to retain and to reward those teachers who are veteran teachers. So if you read the contract, it states that if you're in our district more than 10 years, it isn't a teaching experience, it's our district experience, that you would receive that extra, another personal day. And that was kind of our way of thanking our veteran teachers for sticking with
Sticking
us.
around. Okay. Well, I'm sure we can get that information. Payroll will be able to
And I
run
know
that out through.
The concern for the board was that would now, those teachers who are veteran teachers would have 8 days theoretically that they could use. So we did cap it at 6 consecutive. And that was their concern, is that we wanted our teachers in the classroom, and that's what we want as well, is to have our teachers in the classroom, so.
Okay. Well, we'll start digging on that and see what we've got there to share out with us for the next time. Okay, any other items then that we could talk about tonight?
One more thing on contract language that Kim and I would both need is the recommendations of the extracurricular committee
From
in
Guy?
regards to any increases that they may have implemented for extracurriculars or any extracurriculars they have added, so that we can add it to our.
So we would need soccer. right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So if there were any organizations that asked for an increase and received that increase, that we could update that information in here as well.
Not a problem. I believe that group's already met.
Yeah,
So
they
I
met in
think we're-
February, I think.
Okay,
I think they met in February, so we should have that information.
okay. Very good.
How much time have we got?
Well, I don't know, we didn't set a,
Well, I mean,
Didn't set a time.
we're gonna do 2 hours.
Didn't set a time tonight.
well, I don't know if we're doing
I think
2
some of
hours.
this is, we're to the point where I don't think you probably have your information and we don't have our information,
Sure, no, and we don't want to rush anybody,
Right.
just know that we have an aggressive timeline we're trying to meet too. So is there anything else out of those lists that you've kind of made that you would feel like we could do justice and talk about tonight? Or do you feel like we're
Just
about,
that we've made?
well, or anybody, no,
Well,
that's on the list as a
Okay.
whole.
I mean, I guess I'm interested in the dates for horizontal movement.
Right.
What's-
Yeah.
And that I think could be potentially an easy
I
one.
think that's not a long conversation.
What we
So-
wanted to propose was that the horizontal movement cutoff would come by, so that we could cut check, or contracts one time in the spring and budget for those contracts in the spring, rather than putting it off to August, have to redo a budget and redo contracts in August. We were looking at, can we do a spring cutoff rather than a August cutoff for horizontal movement?
Most
I-
classes teachers take are in the summer.
Yeah, well, we
Right.
know that, and that's why we were thinking too, even if we did it, I mean, theoretically, as long as everybody knows when those dates need to be submitted, it would be fair. So even if, whether we walk away with a 1 or a 2-year agreement, we could perhaps even propose implementing that in a full another year so the word can get out to everybody that, hey, as of such and such a date, then turn in your credits and be ready for that lane change, so it can be budgeted appropriately and contracts can be issued without being reissued.
So like if somebody does take some in the summer, or they're planning on taking it in the summer, during that spring, you want them to come in and like basically say, these are the credits I'm taking, like give a heads up kind of thing? But
Or
you-
they have to have the.
Or do they
credits
have to have
already.
it done already? You know what I mean?
Basically, my understanding is your chance for horizontal movement will basically be backed off 1 year, technically. Because if I need 4 credits this summer to move for next year, you're basically telling me that I can't make that movement in the fall of 2019. I would have to then, anything I took in the summer, I would have to wait for my horizontal movement till the following school year.
And that's where we would probably begin our negotiation, would be to
Am I
make that
correct in
request.
that
Yes, that would be the
understanding?
initial
Okay.
request.
Okay.
Would we be willing to say, if you knew that you were going to take those 4 credits in the summer, could you notify of your intent by April 15th? And so that we could still do one contract. Does it,
Oh, so
so
you're-
there's
So you're
even
not-
some.
okay, so you're-
Contingent
it's-
upon you meet.
You're saying if I plan on taking 4 credits, I let you know by,
You commit to
whatever
that,
date,
you
and
give
then
us the
you'll honor that?
notification, and then you can still, we could
Okay.
still keep the August date for providing proof of
okay,
completion.
Gotcha. That makes
But if
sense.
you, if you know that you're gonna take the 4, you've went through the pre-approval of knowing that those 4 credits will count
Okay.
towards, we would even be willing to look at that as far as a negotiation item, you know. It would be easier for us to do it
Right.
the other way and push it off a year.
Okay.
But if that's not acceptable, maybe some middle ground would be even to do something along those lines.
I think one of the issues is that oftentimes we don't know what's coming up, you know, in the summer until
That's what-
January,
that's my
February,
question.
March of the year. And obviously, I know that under a non-negotiating year, it's oftentimes we have our contracts in our hands by April 1st. And we might not know what's available in the summer classes to give you that intent. That would be one of my concerns. We'd have to have the West River Community or Teachers Center and the DSU, whoever's going to be giving us those credits. Would have to
and
determine those
I see
earlier.
it a little problem with, okay, I plan to do this. Now I'm just throwing it out there, my father passes away, I can't take those credits now. So how would we remedy that situation? I mean, and I see your point, because you can budget for a bigger number.
Right.
So I understand that, I get that.
So is it the budgeting process that's the biggest concern versus reissuing contracts?
It's a combination of the two. The budgeting concern, of course, is the bigger of the two concerns. If we want to be able to have accurate budgets, accurate numbers for planning and
So
that,
if-
certainly would be the bigger of the two. But issuing dual contracts certainly is a logistical concern as well. And as we've grown as a district, you know, it used to be reissuing of a dozen contracts versus reissuing of 150 contracts. So, or, you know, and that's probably, please don't hold me to those numbers. But logistically, as we've grown as a district, the ability to just, that's a one-off. The one-offs have become much bigger. Does that make sense logistically? So yeah, it's a concern both ways.
Right, okay, so if we give a notice of intent to take credits, I'm gonna take 3 credits this summer to get my lane change. And we get that, and again, getting the approval process, if we don't have access to the information is hard. Because we don't know what's available oftentimes, like I said, until.
When would you know? Do you know what typically?
I don't know, when did DSU finally get theirs out this year? Was March,
Okay.
I think was when they finally.
And what does the approval process typically take you? How quick of a turnaround have we given you? If you knew in March and we said we'd want that approval by April 15th, is that a good enough window? I don't know.
There might need to be some collaboration with the reading coaches too, because I just received an email today that they were offering a class this summer, if I read it correctly. I read it pretty quickly though.
Sure.
A busy day, you know what I mean?
That
So,
stuff trickles in all
yeah,
summer.
yeah,
it
so
You'll get
there might
notified
be,
in June.
yeah.
If something happening in July or August. I mean, that's not ideal. They want you to commit now earlier too,
Yeah.
so they can plan. But yeah, I bet things can trickle in.
Yeah.
And so,
later.
you know, if we know that the intent is there, obviously you would budget higher.
Yeah.
And if something came about where that intent didn't happen because of family emergency or whatever happens to be, you'd obviously have to reissue the contract at a lower price, but.
We would.
But that wouldn't affect, it would positively affect your budget versus negatively affect your
Yes,
budget.
that's correct. Yep, that's correct.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I think that's gonna be a tough sell.
Okay.
You know, and I've been honest. Anytime I'm across the table, I'll tell you if it's, you know, I can take it to them, but I think it's going to be a tough sell.
Okay.
But I think, you know, if you can provide some language that I can take and we can discuss, that would be ideal.
Okay, we'll see what we can put together and have for our next meeting. Good.
I do think it would be easier if there was, it wasn't like held off for a whole year. I do think it would be an easier sell if it was more, okay, if you know ahead of time, because most of us know if you're making a lane change, I would hope. And you don't randomly do that, you do that intentionally. So most people would know in the spring of the year if they're going to make a lane change. So if they are, and we can come in and notify and we're still able to do that over the summer, I think that would be a much easier sell than holding off a year. You know,
Sure. I think
just
that's,
my feedback, I
I think
guess.
that's middle ground, so we'll,
Yeah.
we'll do like,
Just,
these- we'll get you that kind of language,
Yeah.
and then you guys can kind of vet that out and see
Right.
what if anything.
Because we
would work.
could add and delete from that language as well.
Sure.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
to
absolutely.
make it more
Yeah,
sellable.
Sure.
right.
What is your work day?
That, we probably need to have that one in
Along.
regards,
There's
I think it's
probably
a
a
little
number of
longer
issues there.
than tonight.
Okay.
And we'll try to tie, I'm looping some of these together, like you suggested, leave time and PTO, maybe
Okay.
with the sun clause and stuff. We may, those might be all great,
Together one?
together
Yeah.
ones, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
we can
agree.
kind of talk about everything all at once.
Okay.
So let's plan that. So and with us already kind of talking a little bit about the horizontal movement dates, I don't know of anything, professional organizational dues.
gonna
I'm
say,
not
where
sure
does
exactly
that
what.
one-
That's that too.
Yeah, I know, it's
That-
Is that
money.
a, is that a
That's money.
It's money.
What is it? Just spit it out.
Okay. Well, I have it written here, I just don't have a copy. That's
okay.
Based upon what precedents with administrators receiving dues for professional organizations, we would like to see professional organizations for teachers as well being paid for by the district.
So like the National English Teachers Association.
If that's what they choose, they would like to go to, yes.
So is,
Whether it be,
do you have a, I mean, like how many, or have you discussed what, no?
this is topics. We
Okay.
haven't, we have not discussed it yet. I mean, we haven't, you know, we just started to throw together some
Are you
topics. and-
proposing maybe like $50, every teacher would be entitled to $50 that would be applied towards, or?
I think that, you know, I would have to look and see what the administrators get and base it upon on that aspect. And we haven't looked into it in that
Okay.
great detail yet. Because like I said, we did anticipate we were gonna be here at this
Okay.
point.
Sure, no, we agree.
That's fine.
So you're not prepared with your fiscal note?
I have the language, but I don't have the money issue and things like that. But I have language.
Perfect.
Well, I think we can cover a lot of these in Monday's meeting. I do know we agreed to keep that 2 hours. We don't want to not do that. I'm worried about the next meeting being 1 hour. That's a little short. So I guess we'll just see how Monday's meeting goes.
In lieu of that, Mr. Chair, I would suggest that we decide what our number 1, number 2, number 3 items for Monday are gonna be, so we can come back prepared, because if we just say, okay, now we're gonna do benefits, and we're not prepared, you're not prepared, or whatever, you know, I think that if we know what we're gonna actually discuss, or an order, these are the first 4
Priority.
things we're gonna discuss, that we can have those things ready to go.
Well, I know on the issues, the items that we talked about, we can absolutely be prepared as fast as you need to be. So if we get to these on Monday, I can make sure I'm prepared and ready to go. Like I said, I don't want to rush the process for the sake of rushing it. That's not good either. But I think as Mr. Wonderful on the Shark Tank always talks about, doesn't everything on this list really boil down to money? I mean, we're all going to be talking about the same thing. It's all about money pretty much. So I think we have kind of grouped a couple of the bigger items together, and so we'll certainly talk about those, whether that's Monday or Tuesday. Like for instance, the leave language, PTO, I mean, that is dollars, that is money, right? So that goes very well with the benefits and salary, as well as the sunset clause that we've already, you know, kind of linked that to. So I think it would be appropriate to start there, start with the bigger dollar things that we see, but I can see, you know, benefits, I can see TFFR, what's not, you know, I guess vacancies and transfers, that's the only, that one is not.
I think that one can be
that-
quick and easy,
that one-
and I'll have
You
some
wanna do that
proposed
tonight?
language.
He doesn't have his.
Oh, sorry.
You do, no, I just,
No,
I'm finding out that
I'll
too.
throw it out there.
We could talk about that.
We would like to talk
Yeah,
about
that sounds
why it's currently the way that it is, and the expectation that you have for it being the reason why it is. And so as I prepare language, it would be nice if maybe I could get some history as to how we came to this 10-day announce it to, and what the expectation of the association was when that language was put into the contract. I would like some history and background on that.
I'm gonna have to find that out, because that was long before my time.
Okay,
I'm gonna guess this has been around since probably the 70s or 80s. Would be my guess.
Okay.
So we can go back and look.
Okay, well, I think it'll be good to at least.
We would like to have that conversation to see, you know, again, when we put things in an agreement that you know, hiring is a very sometimes fast-paced and volatile and everything else. And when we put things in place that can sometimes make that cumbersome, that process cumbersome, we you know, why is it that way? Are there self-imposed constraints here that maybe don't have to be as constraining? And that, so it would be nice to know kind of some background as to why how we got to the place that we are. And is there a way that we can mutually agree to make that, streamline that, so that everybody's interests are met with that?
I will definitely check and see where it came from our side, if we can go back and find it.
Super good.
But
That'd be good. And we can work on maybe some proposal from our end that would help streamline that as well, and have some starting from language for that as well.
Perfect.
I guess I can add on TFFR, the district is looking at incrementally proposing to pay for part of it. We haven't nailed anything down, but that's one thing that we're looking at.
Yep, exactly. So again, it goes back to salary. I mean, it's essentially part of the money conversation. So I think we can have a lot of that. I think that really needs to be our primary talk on Monday, since we do have the block of 2 hours. Try to hit as many of these bigger global money conversations, at least get the ball rolling. If we get some things good wrapped up and you can go back and talk to your group, then awesome.
And if we could have Mr. Anderson here
Yeah, and he will
to answer those
be.
questions
Yep.
and to have some of that information available.
Yep.
I know he was going to, when I asked for a couple of things from him, he said he had something that he thought was better, and I haven't seen it yet, so I would be interested in
Do you know what that is?
It was, I had sent him the matrix, the schedule with all of the salary schedule. And if you put the full-time, Vince had it, if you put the number of FTEs in, it figured out the
Yes.
bottom line
Okay,
all
I
the
know
way
what you're talking
through.
about.
And you could change this number here, and it would give you all of the figures for that salary. And then there was also another one that he had figured that was a total benefit package. So you said if an increase of $500 in the base would add up to all of this total, including all the benefits, TFFR, Social Security, all that stuff.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and I did send him the 2 sheets, but he said that he thought he had something better, but I haven't. seen
Well,
it.
okay, so I think I can probably address that. And he'll be here Monday, and we'll
Right.
make sure he can get you whatever we need. The item that I think he thought, so how's that saying? I'm guessing what he's thinking, but had to do with a module that is part of his accounting system
Right.
stuff. And then we got into that, so I think he thought that'd be really easy to be able to do this, and you guys could even see some stuff simpler, and found out that that's not the case. The old spreadsheet way is actually better because of the uniqueness of our salary schedule. It's not normal. I know I'm being recorded here, so I have to be careful, but it's not a normal schedule. It's not traditional, which the system is based on that he was referring to. So it's more work to go in there and try to figure out what you were talking about in that system than it's worth. So if that's the same item he's talking about, I'm aware of that. So
Yep.
it's back to the same old stuff. So we'll make sure he's here for Monday's meeting as well, and it'll be a great reference.
If he's wrong tomorrow, maybe I'll stop by tomorrow afternoon and just chat with him real quick.
That'd be great. That would be great. Okay.
And you two
Then-
are meeting before Monday's meeting?
I will email you with
Okay.
with all the things
Yes,
that I
we
have
are.
found. Well, and we could do it via email if
Yeah,
you
no, that's
wanted
fine.
to.
I didn't know it was that quick.
You want
It doesn't have to be, because that won't be anything until, anything that we add or change throughout the entire process will also have to be updated in the contract.
Correct.
So that contract won't be,
So are you wasting your time by meeting before Monday, or is that?
no, well,
Okay.
I think it's just a matter of if you go through it and I go through it and highlight, the areas that we know have to be changed so that we don't miss anything. And we can just, that's a 2-minute conversation when we get here on Monday.
Sure. That's
Awesome.
fine.
Okay,
Great.
that sounds perfect. We will, we'll conclude this meeting then and adjourn and meet on Monday, see you Monday at 5:30. And it's okay if you guys come in your track clothes or whatever. So, you know you'll be busy, so.
Raining.
All right, thanks everyone. Thanks everyone out there. Hope you can hear.
Yeah.
Never seen you twice in one day.
I know,
We
right?
started moving our board meetings over to the PL lab, so that in case a big
Kim, what
group
did you say
came to
that
talk
amount
about
was
the
again?
high school projects and all those things. And so that's where the microphones got moved.
238.56.
Then we were like, now we
So
have
it's half,
microphones.
so,
Half of that.
yeah, so it's like,
Yeah, that's what I was
whatever,
talking
if
to
you
Jim
wanna do
about before. If
120 or if you
we
wanna
need
go
to do
to
that, we
Denny, I
can.
don't
This is
care.
probably
Okay.
a
We can do
small
that.
group compared to what might be here the next one, especially with it being a little later.
I think we could do that. What I don't know is how many times does Kent need to dip into his office to do some kind of research for you? Being here allows that way easier than over
Yeah,
there. So,
very true.
but we'll figure it out.
All right,
We'll
I
do
gotta get
whatever
to
works,
practice.
so.
I will see you guys later.
Have fun.
Thanks.
Embarrassing to be the two oldest in the room.
Well, I'm feeling old, but no, I just remember it happening, and we talked, because I was in Montana when it happened, and we talked about you guys heavily.
Oh, sure.
About that whole, about them doing that,
when
and
the
then.
foundation aid wasn't there for the second year, that's when we did appreciative measure.
How's it going, sir? How are you? I'm fine, thank you. Good. Want to grab the right one.
Thank you.